I immediately left the church premises feeling worried about the plague that was coming. I wish I had met my pastor to help me. Still a little distance from home, I heard voices of cry. I got home, everyone in our compound was weeping. The news of my dad's sudden death while he was in bed took me off balance. My mom was crying so uncontrollably. How could someone die when they were not even sick? I immediately knew it was the great one's doing. My mother's cry pierced my heart so badly. I knew I was behind all this. Immediately I heard a horrible voice. The power of the great one now lives in you, and you can't go back now. So the voice said, "You have become the servant of the Great One forever for throwing the precious gift of the Great One into a well. We took the life of your father, so as to serve as a warning to you. You have 2 days remaining to choose amongst your mother or your sister. Any further warning will result to your death." The voice said plainly, and it faded. All this while the voice was speaking directly from inside of me. There was nothing I could do. I started begging the Great One to pity me, but I guess the devil doesn't pity any soul. Family members and relatives were all mourning my late father. In anger, I went to my room and immediately placed a call to divine. I had many things I had many things to say to him. I wanted to express my grievances. Why did he not tell me about all of the troubles behind the pen? First of all, why did he even introduce me to that kind of deadly website? I wanted to assault him. After he picked my call, I explained to him what and happened. I was surprised when he deliberately told me that he was in a very important meeting, that he could call me later. So he had no sound of pity in his voice. Without allowing me to say anything further, he turned down the call. I was too angry. I placed another call again. After countless minutes of ringing, he picked. But before I could even utter a word, he said something which threw me off balance. He told me that my father's death and like my father's death was the great one's way of disciplining me of my act of throwing their precious gift away. And he turned down the call finally. I was depressed knowing there was just 2 more days left. After the death of my father, 2 days had already gone by. Still, I had not figured out the best way I could escape my fate of sacrificing any of those 2 precious members of my family, that is my mother and my sister. With just 1 more day left, I went to meet Define personally. We met at the compound's gate. I asked him of a way to divert the course of the Great One, and he boldly told me that there was no way. And he said that the Great One could not be diverted. He even said I was even lucky for my life to have been spared after committing that abomination. He left my presence immediately and went back into the fence after saying that, leaving me standing there alone. I was totally disoriented and frustrated. I felt like I was going to lose everything in just a day, my happiness, my family, and all the wonderful things the future and in stock for me. I turned around and left the compound that very moment and entered straight to the church, knowing that tomorrow would be my last day, that is the following day. But unfortunately, the Reverend Father had not returned from his trip, so I went back home feeling completely lost in spirit. Night came. Till then, I had not gotten any sign from them since meeting with Divine, so already I was convinced that they were withdrawing their connection with a stubborn guy like me. But something even 24 was already fast approaching that would ruin my whole happiness in just a minute. And so, guys, this is the last part of the story, My Demonic Pen, and I hope you enjoyed the story. And it was around 8 p.m. while I was in bed. A man in a very red gown appeared in my room. Very frightened at that moment, I shockingly asked, "What do you what do you people want from me?" And what I was still inward when he cut in with a very expressive voice. "Time is kicking and tomorrow is almost there, and you are yet to appease the Great One. You have yourself few hours to offer the blood of either the two people. Your life and the life of the two people lies in your hands. You won't be lucky to receive any more message from the Great One, but rather regret." While he spoke, his face kept glued to the ceiling. "You guys should take me instead. My mother or sister did nothing wrong to deserve death for my action," I responded in a mournful voice. Immediately I said that, he disappeared without a word. So a few hours later, while everyone was asleep in the house, I was awakened by a loud scream from my parents' room. Instantly I knew something terrible was happening because of me. And so I ran to their room only to see my mom lying on the floor of the room, struggling for life and gushing out blood through her mouth. It seemed like someone who was being strangled or something. My little sister had quickly left her room because she was with my mom crying. At this point, my mom was almost an inch to death. I felt deep pity for my mom at the moment. Some of my neighbors apparently came in when they heard the screaming from our compound. We apparently got her up and we made our way to the hospital. She died even before we got to the hospital. So after our return from the hospital, I was feeling very guilty and my whole world was now torn apart. The state of my mental health was becoming critical, even fading moments. Our family members and relatives were convinced that something diabolical was behind all this because after my father's death, it was not long before my mother also passed away. And deep down, I was fully aware that they were right in their perception. So while I was in my room crying bitterly, the snake that had brought the pen previously appeared on my bed, wrapped around another pen, and it started speaking. "Your mother's death was the Great One's will. You refused to make the sacrifice, so the Great One had to choose for you. This is the replacement of the Great One's gift. Take it and don't make another mistake. Another violation against the rules of the Great One will result to your only sister's death." And it disappeared, leaving the pen on the bed. I was so angry at this point that I picked the pen and smashed it on the floor in anger. I was about to step on it when my feet aggressively left the floor and I was thrown against the wall by a force I have never felt before. Immediately the pen transformed into a lady, having a mean face, and she was advancing towards me with a knife. At this point, I had no option but to run to the church. I felt it was the Almighty that could save me. So I speeded out of the house and headed to the church. At this point, I was shouting, "You guys should leave me alone. I don't want to be part of you guys anymore. Please, please." All of the sympathizers that came to our house were shocked, and some even started escaping thinking I had gone mad. I was spinning excessively towards the church when I looked behind me. I saw the lady transforming into a dog, and after a moment, she changed into a pink and was speeding behind me more than anything I have ever seen. So getting to church was not an easy thing for me. While I was going, the road in front of me seemed like 1,000 miles. It felt like I was being controlled by a force which kept stopping me from going to the presence of the Most High God. It took me almost an hour to get to a church, though the church was just a few miles away. I was so exhausted on getting to the church. Fortunately for me, found the Reverend Pastor sitting right on his forehead and plainly focusing on his Bible. So the pastor and some members sitting with him, and I think they had a devotion, an evening devotion. So I ran straight into the porch where they were sitting, and on seeing me speeding towards them, they almost ran off their seats, probably thinking I was a madman. Pastor, please pray for me. Please, Pastor, Pastor, they are after me. They want to kill me, I screamed. When I fell down, two spirits started manifesting in me. Immediately, they started praying over me. This body is ours. Leave it alone, or we kill you. The demons in me groaned. The pastor was now rebuking and quoting all types of Bible verses. He was telling them that nothing they could do to the child of God. It felt like I was placed in a huge burning furnace. My body was hot. While the pastor was praying, my soul immediately left my body. And in the spirit realm, I saw myself in the midst of prayer warriors. Now my body was surrounded by a group of demonic agents, sending back fire back to the pastor. I could see my body rolling like a snake. The evil ones were now manifesting in it. It was a tough spiritual battle. The pastor was not too strong in the spirit, so for that reason it took them long before overcoming those dark forces taking control of my body. And it was only by the help of the prayer warriors that made him overcome those forces. So when I finally got delivered. I remember waking up and asking the pastor what happened to me. And he said, the Lord delivered me from the power of darkness. And today I am a living testimony to the power of the Most High God. My deliverance was a marvelous one. So, brethren, be prayerful and watch out for the tactics of the devil. His job is to steal, kill, and destroy. May the Lord bless you with his riches and grace to understand his word. Amen. And peace be unto your household. That was the head of our story. Stay tuned for another interesting story coming up soon. And it was an amazing journey, and I thank you all for participating in this journey. Yeah, the demonic pen was the best with you guys. I'm happy to have shared with you my thoughts and also my friends' thoughts. It's a combined thoughts, and I am really grateful for you guys for being with me in this journey. And I hope to see you in our next story. Yeah, may God bless you so much.